That was nice, wasn't it? I'm glad to turn this portion of our service over to our Guatemala mission team, and so they can take charge at this time and share with us whatever the Lord's laid on their heart. Valerie?
Danny asked us to sing at the Sunday afternoon youth worship service, and so we knew ahead of time. So Valerie had brought books, and we practiced Saturday night. They have great acoustics in their mission house. Man, we were awesome Saturday night.
We sounded good.
We sounded really good.
We did it in our own key, too.
We don't have music because we are making stuff up. But anyway, we were just gonna sing that for you this morning, and then in the Wednesday night service they sang it as well. Oh, I mean, it's an Easter song, so it's not like we made it up or anything, but they sang it Wednesday night after we sang it Sunday afternoon. So we're gonna sing that for you. And we have Drew standing in because he did go last year, and Timothy, Hannah, and Pat aren't here today. So
And Emily Welford.
oh yeah, the prom queen. So anyway, we're just gonna sing this. What page is that in my glasses? Okay.
54.
Hey, this is a song you guys know, so feel free to sing along. Okay. What can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. Oh, precious is the flow that makes me white as snow. No other fount I know, nothing but the blood of Jesus. This is all my hope and peace, nothing but the blood of Jesus. This is all my righteousness, nothing but the blood of Jesus. Oh, precious is the flow that makes me white as snow. No other fount I know, nothing but the blood of Jesus.
Would you be free from the burden of sin?
There's power in the blood, power in the blood.
Would you or evil a victory win?
There's wonderful power in the blood.
There is power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb. There is power, wonder-working power in the blood of the Lamb. Yes, there is power, wonder-working power in the precious blood of the Lamb.
I wear glasses now, so I can either see you or I can see my notes, but I can't see both. Welcome to our Guatemala service. And thank you for all your prayers, donations, and support. James 2:15 and 16 says, "Suppose you see a brother or sister who has no food or clothing, and you say, 'Goodbye and have a good day. Stay warm and eat well.' But then you don't give that person any food or clothing. What good does that do?" Verse 18 says, I will show you my faith by my good deeds. Our church family is doing a good deed in San Pedro. Danny and Kim are very grateful and resourceful with the support they receive and always give our Father all the glory. We had a group of 10 this year. 3 of the 10 are not here. Pat is in Houston, Hannah is in Alaska, and Timothy had drill this weekend. So it's just this, and Emily's not here either. This trip, we all worked construction 3 mornings and held a sports camp in the afternoons. We had one VBS day while the guys finished the house they were building. We were able to visit with our sponsor students and their families. The work was hard, the food was delicious, the fellowship was sweet, and the goodbyes were tearful. The faith and dedication of Danny, Kim, and their staff is very humbling and inspiring. What I brought back is the realization that every community is a mission field, and we can all be missionaries in our own neighborhood every week. The harvest is ripe, but the workers are few. Pray for more workers and pray to be a worker. I thought it was pretty fitting that in the Daily Bread this week, on Friday, it was about how it says we encounter people in need every day, some around the globe, some simply around the corner, some in need of a warm meal, others a kind word. What a difference followers of Christ who have experienced his love could make by doing good and sharing. And last, think about going to Guatemala next year. Emily's coming up first. She's kind of nervous. And she was a first-timer this year, so she's going to tell you how it feels.
Hola, buenos dias. So I am nervous, like she said, but so we'll see how this goes. It was my first time. I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I did, you see all the pictures, but it doesn't compare to being there. But I remember getting off the plane and getting on a bus that Danny had somebody drive a bus for us to get on to carry us from Guatemala City to San Pedro. And Holly said, don't pay attention to the driving because it's scary. And so I was like, okay. Well, so I didn't pay attention, and then we get through the city and start going up the hills, and I feel as we go around the curve, our van's sliding. You can feel it and you can hear it, and I was like, okay, this is kind of scary. But we eventually got there, and, we unloaded, and it was, the smell was something else, and it was different, and it was overwhelming, being able to see Danny and Kim in their environment, but the people, hanging out with the kids, they never failed to have a smile on their face. And when people have nothing and they have the joy and it's just something, because we always want, and they have to rely on God or whatever to get them their next meal or through their next day. And then when the men built the house and some of the girls helped, and going to talking to the people, then they were telling us how thankful they were for a tin roof over their head and 10 walls and a 2-room, little place. And they had a dirt floor, and they're just like crying because they're so thankful. I think that touched us all, but it's something I never thought that I would feel. But seeing the videos, I could have stayed forever. You just love on those kids, and they love you. They know your name the second time you just met them one time, and they remember your name the next day. And they have the biggest smile, and their clothes are dirty, and it's crazy. Sorry. But so the beginning of the week, Doug messaged me and said, hey, I have a sponsor daughter, and her name's Heidi, and see if you can find her. And so I told Danny, and so we had been searching all week, and I was like, man, we're not going to find her. And so Friday morning, we drove to San Cristobal, and we were all on the back of the truck, and there was like 2 motorcycles in front of us, which Danny was on, and he was stopped, and he stopped the car, and he was like, "Emily, here's Heidi," and so me and Hannah got out, and we got to meet Joy and Doug's sponsor child, and it's always really cool, even if you're not sponsoring somebody, just to know that they appreciate and they love us, and most of these people, most of our group got to meet theirs, and it's just an experience. And going, I just think that everybody should be able to see something. Everybody should be able to go and be able to just hang out. They'll bless you. You think you're going to give them something, and people always say that, but they hit you 10 times harder. And so that was my trip.
Me again. We attended 3 church services: Sunday morning, a youth worship service Sunday afternoon, and the Wednesday night service. We had an interpreter during the sermons, both services on Sunday, but not for the midweek service. Danny planned it that way so we could appreciate what he and Kim experienced the first year they lived there. They joined that church just almost immediately. Gosh, I hate these glasses. Almost immediately once they moved there, and their Spanish wasn't all that great for a while. So he said for the first year, they really didn't know what the preacher was saying every Sunday, but they just kept going. And, the more you're there, the more you pick up what they're saying. And so it was, a few of the books of the Bible almost sound the same. So we almost knew where he was in the Bible. And he flips in that Bible. But anyway, every aspect of life for the people in San Pedro is hard and harsh, except their time at church. It is sweet, unhurried, refreshing, heavenly, sincere, wholehearted. Their worship and prayer time is tender and humble and inspiring. James 2:5 says, "The poor live by faith." And we saw that, and we figured out, kind of like Emily was saying, they are actually so much richer than us because their faith is so strong and deep. Their place of worship is their favorite place to be. It's the best part of their week. They know the better life is yet to come, and worship for them is an honor and opportunity to be still and seek the presence of God, to get a taste of heaven. Most of the songs were completely unfamiliar, but the expressions on their faces and their hands raised in worship needed no translation. We did recognize the tunes to a few choruses and sang along in English. Danny introduced us during the Sunday morning service, but by Wednesday night, we were part of the family, passing around the babies and lingering, just like we do here. We're going to sing a song with you in just a minute. It's just a chorus. Don't panic. Last year, we made y'all stand up and do crazy stuff. This year, we're just going to sing a chorus because it's a chorus that we sing here. Well, it's on the radio. Some people sing it. Anyway, and they sing it as well. So we're going to sing it in Spanish. It's only 2 words, 3 words. You'll get it. But I wanted to tell you real quick about, we have 2 sponsor kids, and so Hannah and I went and visited with Monica Maria. She's a teenager. We went to her house, and the whole family came out, and we hung out there in the alley, and it was just a great time of fellowship with them, and the dad's real happy, and he did most of the talking, and then we had our interpreter, so she was interpreting, as she says. Sometimes what they say can't be translated, so she kind of interprets it. So I don't know what she told him I said, but anyway, it's okay. He laughed every time, and it was supposed to be funny, so I guess it went well. And they brought out her work she's doing in school, and they're just so grateful. And so Matthew's going to talk about our other sponsor family, but I'm going to just say a little bit about the mama, because I met her last year and we just kind of clicked, which is, she's just very sweet and a very good mom, and she's raising her kids, and it's just hard. I mean, they get buckets and go walking for water. I don't even know where they have to go for water, but I had taken her just a little plastic container of travel-sized lotion, mouthwash, just little. And, I just went to Dollar General and grabbed it up and took it to her, and she was so grateful. And on Friday, when we went for the house dedication, her family lives right down the road. So the kids and I ran back down there to see them one more time. And the little 5-year-old boy, he said, I already said goodbye to them. He was not the least bit impressed in seeing us again. But anyway, we gathered them all up for one more picture. He and Timothy were beside each other because they had about the same attitude with pictures. The 5-year-old and Timothy, I don't know what that tells you. But anyway, so then we came back up to where we were parked, and in just a few minutes, Ruth, that's the mama, she came walking up, and she had, it was an 8x10 piece of cardstock. It was decorated, and it had the 23rd Psalm on it in Spanish. And then she had a glass bottle of anointing oil that I think probably was a gift to her from maybe a church service or something, but she gave me those things. And I mean, I think those were two of her best treasures, and she gave them to me, and it was so humbling to see that kind of generosity and gratitude. And then she read it to me in Spanish, and the psalm, and it was very beautiful. And I'm telling you, it's hard to leave when you go down there, and when you go a second time and they love you, like Emily said, and they know you and they remember you. And then Valerie showed that stinking slideshow, got me all teary-eyed. It's okay, it was great. But anyway, it's really an awesome experience. And then it's just amazing return trip. And I mean, it's just a beautiful place, the spirit of the people, and it's just beautiful. So, and I mean, it's like home. Our church is beautiful, and we have sweet fellowship and a sweet family. And by the way, my husband moved me away, so that's why I'm not here on Sunday mornings. And so then I'm a commuter wife. Then I come, but I'm here during the week. So come to Teenagers if you're old enough, because I'll be there. And I miss all of y'all, and I love you very much. But, okay, we're going to do the chorus, and it's called Yes, Lord. And it's yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes,
Yes.
Lord. And
Yes,
then,
Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, amen.
amen. So that's y'all's part. And then in Spanish, it's sí, Señor, because they call Lord is Señor. And so that's sí, Señor, Señor. I mean, we really picked that one up just like that. So
Y'all can too.
anyway, y'all stand up because it's a happy yes song. Yes, Lord. And anyway, so we're just going to sing that, and y'all sing it with us. Who thinks they know it? Anybody know that song?
Drew knows it.
Drew, somebody knows it. Sing loud if you know it, and make it up if you don't.
We'll do it 2 times through, and that way.
Okay, we're going to do it 2 times through so you can pick it up. And we're going to sing it in Spanish, and you can too if you want to. Okay, here we go. I'm not in front of the microphone for that. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
We're doing Si, Señor, but you can do Yes, Lord, if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So count off.
1, 2, 3, go.
Si, Señor, si, si, Señor. Si, Señor, si, si, Señor. Si, Señor, si, si, Señor. Amen. Okay, y'all go down. Here we go. Smile. Si, Señor, si, si, Señor. Si, Señor, si, si, Señor. Si, Señor, si, si, Señor. Amen. Oh, gosh. One more time. I think you almost have it. Let me see. I don't hear you. Here we go. Here we go. Si, Señor, si, si, Señor. Si, Señor, si, si, Señor. Si, Yeah, and that's a good thing to say. All right. Yes. Timothy was supposed to do the construction part, and you know how
Okay.
funny that was last year. So anyway, he had drill this weekend, so these guys are gonna have it.
One of the things that we went to do was to help Danny in the construction and destruction of property there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the destruction because the tearing down. He had a feeding center located on property where he had an agreement with the owner of the property to put the feeding center there. And this feeding center was larger than the average house. He said he had about $5,000 invested in the building, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's concrete, it's 4x4 post, and it's the tin, which is pretty expensive to keep it dry and out of the weather and make it usable for them. He had power there and things like that. So what happened is when it came time to sign some legal papers about the property, the lady that was the owner of the property backed out and said, "Oh, I think I need my property back." Well, of course, she had allowed him to build the feeding center on it, and I guess she felt like in doing that she was going to be able to, get the building too. With the Guatemalan people there and with everything that Danny's trying to do there, he had a very strong feeling that if he allowed her to do that and to take that building, that every time he tried to build something somewhere, then the Guatemalan people that were not strongly in favor of what he was doing in the community would try to take that property as well. And so he said, yes, the property is yours, but the building is ours, and I'm going to take it with us to other uses. And so while we were, mainly Monday, while Pat and I and Manuel and Andrew were working on setting the post and and that's another story talking about, and Andy talked about last year about rocks in the ground. But while we were working on that stuff on Monday, Matt and Tim, they went and started taking the metal off the building. Huh? And other folks, yes, other folks, of course, right, right. According to Matt, they didn't really do anything. It was mostly him and Tim. So, no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, but they started taking the tin off, and then by the time you got the tin off, then we had you had 4x4s left, and you had concrete, and the new property that Danny has purchased and has title to, where there will be a mission house one day, and there will be a feeding center, and it will be a place where a lot of things can happen. He needed fill, and so the concrete needed to come out as well. And the concrete there is, when we think of pouring a concrete slab, we might throw in rebar, we might throw in wire mesh, we might, they get that volcanic dirt is, there's not a lot of organic material in it, so it packs down very well. They level it out, kind of pack it down a little bit, and then they just pour 2 or 3 inches of concrete on top of it, and it does really well for what they need. And so all those folks, while we were setting posts, got the metal and the tin down, and we got it loaded up, and what we needed came to, and it was used for the home for the family. And then we went back on, they were working on Tuesday. We went Tuesday afternoon and back on Wednesday and busted up the concrete, and I don't know how many truckloads. If y'all kept up, I don't know how many truckloads of concrete we hauled away from there, but it sure seemed like a lot. And I'm just going to tell you, pouring concrete is not terrible. Busting concrete up, if you've ever done much of it with a sledgehammer and a pick and that kind of stuff, is never fun. And I can promise you at a mile above sea level, it is less fun. So, because you get tired pretty fast. There's no doubt about that. And then Matt wants to talk a little bit about building the home, so we can talk about that too. So.
And Tim's not here to make y'all laugh, but I'll tell y'all at least one funny thing that I heard about him saying the first day. He was, I wasn't there with him, but he was with all the girls, or most of the girls, like David said, busting up the concrete, taking down the sheet metal and the posts, and Danny apparently came up. Danny was off doing missionary things, and he came up and he was like, okay, so I think he just mentioned something that needed to be done. Like, so we need to make sure this gets done. And Tim, just being the construction worker he is, looks at Danny and he goes, "Oh, don't worry, I got a crew on that one." So, yeah, it was the women. So yeah, so apparently they did. I didn't see it, but they did work as well. I'm just kidding. No, I saw them. They worked hard. But I spent one day busting up concrete a little bit, but I spent most of the time on the construction of the house. Like Emily was saying, it's not much. It's posts and tin and 2 bedrooms and doors, and that's it, you know. And they were so grateful and so thankful for it. But it was about like last year. You know, I've got a little bit of knowledge when it comes to construction from working with my uncles and my dad. Tim, he knows what he's doing. And but the Guatemalans, like Danny's crew, there's 3 of them. There's Carlos, he can speak English, thankfully. Then there's Manuel and Andres, and they don't speak any English. Well, Andres is starting to learn a few words, but like there's no English communication going on. You know, nothing like that. And so the first day we had Carlos and/or Danny there to help us, you know, trying to communicate and make sure we're doing everything the same. And then I guess it was the last day when we were finishing up putting all the tin on there. For about 4 hours, or maybe 3 hours. It was me and Tim and Manuel and Andres, the 2 that don't speak any English, and then the 2 that don't speak any Spanish. I mean, and so, but it was just crazy. I mean, I didn't think about it until we were about done. I was like, we went this entire day, and a little bit of Spanglish happening, a little bit of like acting out, communication going on, and didn't have any problems, and just threw this sheet metal up like it was nothing, you know. And it's just crazy that we can be so close. Like me and Tim are so close to these 2 guys without being able to speak to them at all. Like it's just the interaction and working and sweating with each other. It just, you know, it brings you closer, and so it was just cool that we were able to make it through that day without needing to communicate verbally. We just kind of like looks and symbols and yes and no and stuff like that, and so that was pretty cool. But I guess I'm also going to talk about the sports camp we did a little bit, and I was really glad this year that, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed last year. We did a lot of construction, and I know it made a huge difference, and so it was great to be a part of that. But this year we only worked that first half of the day, and the second half we did the sports camp, and I was so happy because I got to play with the kids. And I mean, those kids are just like, man, they're so dang cute for one. And like Emily said, they're just happy. And they're just happy to see you. Danny will tell you, they see white people, or gringos as they refer to us. And but when they see us and they see that we're with Danny, they know that they can trust us and that we're going to show them love. And so they are just thrilled to see us. And so that's a good feeling, you know, and you get to play with them and hug them and just love on them. And we taught them a little bit of basketball, I think. I don't know, maybe. But it's such a amazing feeling to know that you're being a vessel of love, of God's love to these kids who need it, who might not see it at home. And another bonus of the sports camp and seeing the kids was that we got to I got to see our sponsor child, Enrique, one of the other kids that our family sponsors, and it's we sponsor Enrique, but it's kind of like we sponsor the whole family. Not, but we pay for Enrique's school, right? But we're so close to the family. Like Mom said, Mom clicked with the mom. Enrique's got he's got 2 younger brothers and a younger sister, and I think everybody that's ever been will agree that his younger sister, Tooties, is probably the cutest thing on the planet Earth. I mean, this little girl, she's got these little dimples, and you'll say something to her, and she'll respond, and then she'll just, in this sweet little voice, she'll keep talking in Spanish, and you're just like, I don't know what you're saying, I'm sorry, but you're so cute, and please don't leave, because she's just so cute. I think everybody was fighting for her attention the entire week. But but I got to hang out with the family more, and I just, you just feel this connection with them. You can't hardly communicate with them because you speak two different languages, obviously, but you just feel this connection with them. And even when we met with the family and we finally got to meet their father, and he was and you think about a meeting like that and how it could be kind of awkward or uncomfortable, just I don't know, maybe it just might not go well, especially with the lack of communication. But we had the translator there. But we had a good time. We were laughing and cutting up, and they're just so appreciative and loving. And like Mom said, their mom, Enrique's mom, giving her something that was probably so special to her, but it just shows how much they love us. So it was a great trip, and yeah, it was awesome.
I just want to remind you again how much we do appreciate your part in the trip, because so many people contributed. It would not have been the same without all that you gave. And I don't know if the church knows, but our trip, the costs for our trip were covered by you, by the church, by the board, and so that allowed us to do a lot of extras too. And I want to kind of tell you a little other side to the sports camp that we did, that we were able to do because of the money that the church contributed. Sports camp happened because the week that we were there was Holy Week, and in Central America, in countries that are primarily Catholic, Holy Week is a huge week. School's out all week. We got to see parades every day, and maybe somebody's talking about that later, but it was very interesting. And so the kids were out of school. That's why we were able to do the sports camp, and we were actually able to use the school facility. And that also speaks to the fact that Danny he just works really hard to have a good relationship with the community so that he can just do more and more for the people there. So sports camp was great, as Matt said, but we didn't just play. Now, we had a great time. David taught them karate, which they had never done any kind of karate. It was hilarious and great. And we were all really sore because David had us out there doing push-ups and kicking and all this stuff, so we were exhausted too. But the kids loved it, and I hope you saw a little bit of that on the video. But we not only did sports, but we had Bible study as part of the sports camp. So we drew them in for the fun stuff, but then we also had Bible study. And the kids were great. I was able to be with them in Bible study. And I've done a lot of lessons with kids, but not kids that don't speak the same language I speak. So it's a challenge because there's the language barrier and just the cultural barriers, because a lot of their life experiences are totally different than our kids' life experiences. And so you have to really think about your examples and the points you're trying to make. So our interpreter was fantastic. Her name was Deborah, so we had a common bond there. And she works for a ministry full-time as an accountant, but she has a flexible schedule, so she was with us all week and was invaluable to just help us, bridge the communication gap. But anyway, we did lessons each day that corresponded with sports camp. So we did a lesson on teamwork, sportsmanship. We did a lesson on the value of spiritual training versus the value of physical versus spiritual training. And then we did a lesson on the importance of following the rules. And of course we talked about, the sports side of things and then God's side of things. And it just amazed me because I would present the lesson and Deborah would interpret, but the kids' input was wonderful. And you know how kids learn from other kids? And that's what happened there too. They had some great examples when I would ask questions, and just really impressed me with their deep thoughts. So we did teach them and we presented Bible verses and even really the plan of salvation, because we talked about God's rules. We talked about breaking God's rules is sin, and sin leads to separation from God, and that leads to death. And how do we solve that problem? And who was the only person who ever lived who didn't break a rule? And that was Jesus. And so we were able to get the message across while we had fun at sports camp. So I don't know if we'll ever get to do sports camp again, because it might not ever be Holy Week when we're there, but it was a great opportunity for us to do that, and it was a lot of fun. We did everything. They had jump rope, we had flying disc, we had crafts, we had what else? We had lots of basketball. Oh, we taught them how to play kickball. We did probably everything but soccer, because they already know soccer and we don't know it very well. They could teach us, but it was really fun for them to do some different sports. And I also wanted to just tell you a little bit more about sponsorship, because I don't know if you saw our picture, but we got to meet our sponsored child too. And back before Christmas, I was trying to think of some ways to give my personal children Christmas gifts that were more meaningful than just going to Amazon.com and getting something off their wish list. So we decided to do a sponsored child in their honor. So we looked at the list, and I had several to choose from, and I didn't really know how to narrow it down, but I saw this little girl. She wasn't smiling at all. She looked like she was scared to death in her picture. She had long brown straight hair, and I looked at her information, and she had the same birthday as Pat. So I said, that's her. That's got to be her. It's the same birthday. So we sponsor, let's see if I can say her name right. It's Haiti Pamela Maraquin Morales. It's a long name for a little bitty girl, but that's her name, and we just called her Haiti. We would say Heidi, but E's say A in Spanish, so they call her Haiti or Pamela. And we just happened to run into her family when we were walking back from church one day, which was fun, just to get to see them on the street. But then we also had a planned visit, and we were able to go to their house and meet her and take her some gifts. And her father had a job. He was a welder. He doesn't have a high education, but he was a welder. But because of welding without protective equipment on, he had some injuries to his eyes, and I think even his lungs maybe. Anyway, he injured himself. So he has a hard time working now. And they have a good place to live because it's a family place, but they just don't have the money for school supplies and clothes and just any kind of extras. So that's what the sponsorship money does. It provides them with their school uniforms, their school supplies, and some other things that they need. And the sponsorship program is also very good because Danny and Kim monitor the kids and make sure that they're going to school, make sure that the money is really being spent on what you send it for. So if you ever, have doubts about sponsoring a child with other programs, you know that this sponsorship program does what it sets out to do, and it really helps the kids. So, and I was really excited that Doug and Joy were able to fill in, because I think someone dropped out. Is that what happened? And y'all filled in and took up the sponsorship of another child that Emily got to meet with. So anyway, this is a amazing experience, and I'm just so thankful that our whole church is part of it. And even though I'm not here all the time, I'm still my church, and I'm so happy that they let us. We had a really short. It was only 3 hours for us from Houston, so it was nice. But it was just a great experience, and we bring back from it, I'm sure, a lot more than we disperse while we're there, and it just really touches you. But anyway, thank you for listening and for being a part of it.
One of the last days that we were there on Friday, because Saturday was for me, was a long travel day. So, because after we left Danny's house on Saturday to get to the airport and wait on flights and all that stuff, it was about, 18 hours or so, or 19?
We left at 7 a.m. and we got home at 12:30.
Yeah. So we left at 7 a.m. and we got home at Saturday morning. We got home at 12:30 Sunday morning. So that was a long travel day. But on Friday, we started out the day. It was not heavily scheduled, but we still had a lot of things to do. And he wants us to understand very much what they deal with. And if you have never been on a mission trip and seen what missionaries do in the field, and goodness, what they give up with their family to serve in a country like that, and the hard work that they do, to physically the hard work that they do to get the things accomplished that they do. The feeding center that is now in San Cristobal? Okay, San Cristobal. That feeding center is up a hill. Valerie did the time lapse walk up the hill to get there, and so it's a mountain. Yeah, it's not a hill; it's a mountain. Quarter to a half mile, I think, is somewhere as far as the distance, but it is mostly pretty well straight up at I would say probably about a 30 to 40 degree angle the whole way up there, and it's not much more than a trail. And so we asked Dan, said, what are we going to do on Friday? And he said, well, he said, it's a holiday, but I have someone that is willing to sell me a cord of wood, and so that we can go ahead and get the feeding center up on the mountain stocked out with wood, because that's all they have for cooking. They cook over wood fires. And he said, so we're hoping that y'all will help us and we can carry that up there. And we thought, okay, that's not bad, And so, when we got there, a lot of the wood was not already split, and it was a tree trunk. And so there were pieces, this big around and that tall, and I don't know what they weighed. They seemed real heavy. So we got those, and we got them on our back, and some carried some loads in their arms and things like that. And we moved the truckload of wood up the hill for them. That was a pretty tough walk. It would make you breathe kind of hard. So. And it was okay. We stopped. If you need to stop and take a break, you stopped and took a break, and got your wind back a little bit, and then started back up the hill. And again, remember, this is a mile above sea level, so it's a little harder than it is down here. So, but the feeding center is Danny and them. That was the amazing thing when you got up there, because not only were we taking firewood up there, and food has to go up there every week, and all of these things have to make that trek up the hill. And the whole time we were all talking, we were like, gosh, we got to think of a way he can get stuff up here better than this. There's got to be like a motorized cart or something that we can come up with. And so all of those things would be just about as difficult and as hard to maintain as just carrying it up the hill. So, but all of the materials for the feeding center had to be brought up the hill. And if you build a building of anything substantial there, because they are surrounded by volcanoes and there are earthquakes, it needs to be out of concrete and rebar and block and things that will hopefully withstand certainly the earthquake activity. And so that had been built up there. And I would say it was probably about a 12 by 20 room. The feeding center was already in operation when Danny and them got there. They actually found out that there was someone there, a lady there that was doing this out of their home and feeding some of the children. And so Danny and Kim jumped in and began to support that, enlarge that program, and because there are many children in that area that need to be fed, and so it's work. Make no mistake about it. It is absolutely work to get those materials up there for them, and help them do the things that they do there, and provide those 2 meals a day for those children. And I wanted to mention this too. I added up. He has a board in the mission house. And right now, there's probably about 170 or 180 sponsored children. Their faces are on that board, where they are through the feeding program, through sponsorship, being sponsored for school, the uniforms and the supplies that they need for school. All of those things are being provided for them, and so that they are able to get a much greater head start in life, and hopefully have a better life. After the feeding center, we ate lunch and we rested for a little while. Then we cleaned up and we went up to the house that we had built. And the dad, who had been away all week, Fernando had been away all week doing work. He does construction work. He was able to be there that afternoon about 4 o'clock, and we were able to meet with him and the wife and their child. And if you may not have seen any pictures of it, but what they had before was a piecemeal 10 by 10 or so shack that was certainly not weather tight, certainly not watertight, certainly not much of anything. And of course, by all of our standards, what we built them would be an outbuilding for our homes or a barn or a place where we'd store outdoor equipment and things like that. But it has put them much ahead. And we were also able to, because of several things, but the money that the church gave, the deconstruction of the feeding center helped provide some of the materials we needed for this home, all of the sheet metal and everything like that. We were also, Danny was also going to go on Monday and Tuesday and buy the materials for the concrete for the floor. And the dad there, Fernando, he was going to then mix and pour the concrete floor for the home. And so they were going to have a very substantial place to live there with their child. So it's a very sweet dedication ceremony. And just their, like has already been said, their appreciation for being provided with something that means so much to their family. And you have to realize what they live in. You know, there is no running water in this area, and the running water at the mission house is not sanitary. It has to be filtered before we could use it, and none of us took the option to risk using it without it being filtered. We were pretty careful, so it's you don't want to get sick while you're there. But and they have no sewer, no sanitation, of course, no garbage pickup and things like that. And so it's a very rough place. It's a very rough place. And so this is another family, and you can almost see. I looked at it this week from Google Earth, and you can almost see, if you look at that little area there and those other areas that Danny has been working in, you can see the houses, the places that have been built, because the tin is new and shiny. And when you spot those places, you kind of go, oh, I'll bet that's one that a different mission team has worked on, because it is something that it provides them with a decent home. But the dedication was sweet. The family so appreciative beyond words, could not really even express what it meant to them to have that help, and for their family. They are involved in the church. They are Christians. They attend church, and to go there and see the impact that you can have on them, not for just now, but for in the future, is an amazing thing. Amazing thing. And I'm going to mention one other thing too about that trip. You know, my background in college, one of my areas was geology, and so to go to an area where there were active volcanoes was pretty neat. And to be able to see it kind of, mild eruptions a couple times a day, spitting smoke and stuff like that. But to run into the past volcanic eruptions when we're trying to dig the post, and we run into boulders that are in the ground that are 500 pounds or whatever, how big they are. Some of them were huge. And they have to come out. They've got to be moved in some way before we can because the post, you guys, folks, y'all know if you're laying on a building and it's square and you've got a layout for your post, they got to go there. And so those things have to move. And so there was one that we dug out that was enormous. And we didn't get it out. We were just able to dig out off on the other side of the thing and actually get a lever out of a 4x4 and move it, get it out of the way so that we could put our post where we needed to be. But, to see their appreciation, to know that they have family in Christ in another part of the world that loves them and cares for them. That is all. That's a pretty amazing thing to be a part of. And just know that you were a part of it too. Because without the support of our church, without monthly, weekly giving to our mission fund, then you're not able to send people to do this kind of work. And so we appreciate that support to be able to go and do that.
Okay, my job is to recap or fill in whatever might have gotten left out. First, I'll talk about meeting my sponsored child. That was really cool. Danny took me on a motorcycle. Never ridden a motorcycle before. Never ridden a motorcycle in Guatemala before. But it was very nice. Sweet little ride up the mountain. But so when we turned down the little alley that she lives on, when we were going up the alleyway, I said, "Is this close to where our guys built the house last year?" And he said, "Oh, it's the same house." So our church provided the house that my sponsored child lives in, and the guys who built the house last year spent some time with her, and so that was a cool realization for me. And so then her mom was at work, and her older sister was there. Her older sister is 16, and she has a brother that's 15, and then she's the baby. And I said, "Hey, me too." And then Danny kept telling me she's really shy. She's not very talkative. And I was like, "Hey, me too." So anyway, she came to the door with her sister, and she just kind of stood there and looked at me. And Danny was talking to her, and I told her I was a math teacher, and I said, "What's your favorite subject?" And she said math. And I was like, "You're just saying that." But anyway, I gave her a little present, and I said in it is a little tiara. And I said, because when you follow Christ and you're a daughter of God, then you are a princess. And so anyway, she's got a little princess tiara now, and that's fun. But anyway, so I wanted to say a little bit about Danny's sponsorship program. He sponsors children all ages as they have need, and he has a lot of rules in his sponsorship program. They have to come to tutoring at the sponsor house or at the mission house, and they have to keep their grades up. They give awards for like most improved students and things like that to really encourage kids. They also only sponsor 2 children per family to help teach the family to start taking care of themselves, so that they're not reliant on others, on people like us. So he's not just teaching, or he's not just providing the kids with an education. He's providing the family with the means to create better lives for themselves. And the feeding center is, it's similar. He handpicks children who he knows goes without food for more than a day at a time, who wouldn't have a meal that day if he wasn't providing one for them. And it's just such a beautiful ministry. I hate that we didn't get to see the feeding center this trip, but we got to help with it because we tore one down and we took firewood to a really far away one, and we helped to move the feeding center that we tore down. We helped to move it to the new location. So a little bit of an update on his ministry. He had the opportunity to rent the 2 houses that are behind the current mission house. And that's like its own little compound with its own little, what do you call that area? Courtyard, thank you. Its own little courtyard and driveway, all locked up and nice and nice like that. And so he and his family moved into one of those houses so that they could be closer to the ministry but still have their own private residence where they could raise their children. And then he moved the mission team and all of their supplies that they have had donated and stuff to the other house so that he could organize it, because he just had this tiny little closet with a ton of Tupperware buckets, and they were labeled and even labeled, correctly, but to get something out of that would have taken a while to like find what they needed and to give it to a child that needed it or whatever. He has a lot of medications and things like that and clothing and those kinds of things. So we took those buckets and moved them and organized them into the new mission house. So he could open the medicine cabinet and see where all of the different medicines were. And Kim could open the clothes cabinet and find little girls' clothes or big girls' clothes or little boys' shoes. And that was all organized. And the tools that was all in the same closet. The tools got put in their specific place as well. So everything was easily accessible. And then they were moving the bunk beds to the other house as well so that the new feeding center could go in the mission house. So they have a kitchen that's right next door to the room that they serve the food in, instead of carting the food around the place in these giant pans that they would cook them in. So that was just a huge blessing that we were able to help in the feeding center in that way. And they moved the tutor classroom upstairs to one of the bunk bedrooms, and got that all set up to start school back this week and things like that. So that was cool to be a part of. They have, like they've said, they have an amazing staff that they work with. They're Guatemalans. They're people from this village and from surrounding villages who love Jesus, and they love sharing his love. And so it was so great to meet the new ones and, get to know the ones that we already knew a little better. And like David said, they are our family in Christ. And like Holly said, it's hard to leave. It's hard to leave them because you get to know them and you love them like your brothers and sisters. Aura is the cook for the mission teams when she comes. And last year she was there sort of as the assistant cook, and Mom made her an apron that she had on. And so I told her how amazing the food was, because, you guys, you probably think that you send us on this mission trip and it's rough and hard and stuff, but man, that food, if y'all had it, you would be like, I think y'all went on a cruise or something instead of a mission trip, because it is so good. And I told Aura this, and she said, thank you for telling me that. I was so nervous. She didn't say it in English, but it was translated to me. She said, thank you for telling me this. I was so nervous because last year I was just a helper, and this year I was in charge, and I was just, really nervous, and she is just so super sweet. And then Cynthia is a new worker that we met. She was hired on this year to help tutor kids when they come from the sponsorship program. And so she spent every afternoon, even though it was their off week, she spent every afternoon with us at the sports camp. And you could see her in the video galloping with the little bitty ones, and she would help them learn how to dribble and help them learn a sport that we could not speak in their language and tell them. Andres and Manuel, they both were there every step of the way, and they have taken on cooking for the feeding center. So they're a huge part of that ministry, and then they're always there for the youth ministry and for tutoring with the kids as well. And then Carlos Danny and Kim said Carlos was the first person that they met in Guatemala. He lives sort of behind them, and we actually got to meet his family this year, which we hadn't in the past, and his wife makes things for markets, so we kind of got to shop a little bit and with her stuff and see all the birds that Carlos's son keeps. And Carlos does speak English, and so he's always helpful for us. And our favorite phrase of Carlos is, whenever you ask him something, he'll just say, I think it's fine. So we sort of turned that into a catchphrase. And then Victoria, is probably everybody's favorite Guatemalan because she is so sweet and amazing, and she's part of a wonderful family. She has some younger sisters that we got to know last year and this year. Guadalupe, her sister, keeps Sid, the little boy that we built the house for. So I got to spend some time with Guadalupe while the guys were digging holes and moving rocks and playing with little Sid. And so that was a lot of fun. The house that we built, Erlinda, the mom, is also Vicky's older sister. So that was another cool connection. And Vicky does speak English, but she doesn't like to, so typically she pretends like she doesn't. And at church Wednesday night when we didn't have a translator, as Holly said, we kind of pick it up as we go along. I was translating for Vicky just in case she didn't know the Spanish that the speaker was saying. Another update on Danny and Kim, and one that they ask specific prayer for from all of us, is the 2 girls that have started living with them since last year, Myra and Wendy. Myra is 13 and Wendy is 8. And one day last summer, their mom dropped Wendy off at their house and said, "I don't want her anymore." And Danny and Kim took her in and loved her like she was their daughter, and their 2 kids loved her like a sister. They bought new furniture, and so she would have a place to sleep and things like that. And then a month later, the mom did the same thing with Myra. And so that's been a challenging road for them. I've always been amazed with how Danny is not afraid to get involved in the uncomfortable, the seemingly impossible side of whatever ministry he's involved in. And I think Myra and Wendy are a good example of that. While we were there, the mom had recently moved back, and so they had been visiting with her, and they saw a lot of problems coming from the mom and from the mom's boyfriend. He's a very abusive man. And so praying protection over Myra and Wendy and over Danny and Kim as they try to figure out how to love these 2 girls and how to help them, deal with the rotten family that they have, and show them what God's love looks like, while also teaching them what it looks like to be raised in a Christian household. Because these girls, especially Myra, who's a teenager, she's not used to having rules, and she's not used to, being responsible for her actions or anything like that. And so Danny and Kim have had, a lot of worry over them. But so remember them always in your prayers, Myra and Wendy. And we're going to pray for them in a second. Hannah sent us a letter to read since she couldn't be here. So I'm going to read it, and then we're going to close in prayer. Dear church family, thank you so much for sending us to Guatemala. The trip was incredible. What a blessing it was to visit and encourage our missionaries, Danny and Kim, and their family, and so much fun interacting with the staff of their ministry. As we walked the cobblestone streets and down the dirt roads of the community, Danny would tell us stories of different families, and we saw firsthand, watching his interaction with the kids and people, that God is doing a great work there through Buena Vista Ministerios. The kids were precious, and it was a joy spending the week with them in sports camp. We had so much fun. Thankfully, we had help with some of the staff who spoke Spanish and English, but we found out fast that hugs, smiles, laughter, and love need no translation. I did love attempting to read Spanish Bible stories that were sent. Thankfully, the kiddos were a pretty gracious audience as far as pronunciation goes. One thing I really loved was experiencing how the Guatemalan believers pray, and that is all at once, out loud. No matter who was praying, everyone joined in praying them to themselves in agreement. This type of praying seemed to strip away all worry with using the right words or caring about how you sound, and it was more about uniting voices and hearts in adoration and request of the Lord. It is a beautiful and powerful experience. I wish I could be there with you today and share every detail of this wonderful trip. I hope the pictures and testimonies help you experience a piece of it. Thank you for being a sending church. Thank you for your prayers while we were there. We thought of you often and carried your love and encouragement with us. I love you all, Hannah. So we're going to close in prayer the way that the Guatemalans like to pray. They're going to come and spread out and kind of we'll group up, and we're going to pray all at once, all out loud. So if you guys will stand and go find your group. The way that